Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions. With your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of modern progressive, exploring any kind of progressive music that has come out in the 2000s. And of course, since it is a progressive week, we're going to have some Steven Wilson on it. This community loves this dude, and he shows up pretty much any time a work of his would be applicable to the theme. Yeah, I just gotta speak today, right? Why is that so weird? Anyways, let's dive into this. We're gonna be looking at Home Invasion, Regret number 9, from the Hand Cannot Erase album. Let's dive in. So quite eerie, lots of tension. That's interesting too, not just because I can't really find the phrasing of it yet, but I've never known Steven to do this type of genty, rhythmic, syncopated idea, primarily focusing on rhythm and texture over melody, and playing around and toying around with the rhythmic pulses. Oh, okay, we're in 4/4. It makes perfect sense now that I can see the boundaries of it. Really interesting. Look at the volume all the way on the left over there. We're not hitting anywhere near full volume. That one of the snare hits does push it up to full, but oh, we actually have an organ over here, giving us the same rhythm from before. Very atmospheric, kind of sci-fi-y. Love that little bass lick there, that was tasty. Oh, what is it? It has just a flare of blues, but it is not full-on blues right here. I can't quite place the harmonic area of this guitar melody. Yeah, dude, every time the bass comes in, it's tasty. Beautiful tone, love those little lines. Kind of funky with those palm muted hits on the guitar. Out of nowhere.
But I have lost all faith in what's outside.
A longing for something out of that. But it's interesting that that's juxtaposed with this heavier, more aggressive sound and beats. They just kind of pocketed that, I don't know, that section of, yeah, back to this again. What a weird little musical idea to pocket in the middle of all this more aggressive playing. There's a lot of classic rock influences in here, but the production and end result is very modern. There's even a little bit of hopefulness, serenity. Like there's a sense of unhappiness in the vocal delivery, but the music surrounding it is very chill and calm, relaxing. It's an interesting dichotomy there. Again, when you juxtapose it to the rest of the song, it's even stranger that it's included. Shifted to a 3. Yeah. Really low synth back there. Ooh. I was wondering if it was going to go antagonistic, kind of eerie like our intro was, but no. Definitely some fear, some unknown in here. But a lot of playfulness too. Something going on with the time too. What is it? 7 3s and then a bar of 2? No, that's not it either. Man, what is going on there? Yeah, really nice storytelling with this solo. Very tasteful. Yeah, just going on a little adventure here. Okay. So the timing of that's definitely all still 3/4. The drummer just shifts to every other beat accent, which makes it feel something symmetrical like 4. I say the drummer like this isn't all Steven. Hmm. We had a semi-resolution off of the string instrument, but the piano off to the side didn't resolve. And then there was this faint sound of a kid yelling. Not like in danger, but like yelling like they're having fun, like at a park. Hmm. So this is interesting because it's kind of a few ideas all somehow smashed together into something that wants to be cohesive, and it probably is under multiple listens. I've spoken in the past how Steven just he writes in a language that makes sense to me. Very rarely do I have problems talking about his work. Very rarely do I have problems finding the depth in his work. It just speaks to me in ways. And some of the Steven Wilson tracks and Porcupine Tree tracks we've checked out in the past have been some of my favorite analyses videos. So I find it interesting that I'm a little bit lost here, even more so that the last time we checked out Steven Wilson, I found it to be a little underwhelming. Now that was a collab. I don't remember details about it, but it wasn't just him. So maybe that tied into it a little bit. Maybe I'm just finally getting to see a different side of Steven, which would be very cool too. It makes me want to go back to his pop album. We checked out one of those a long time ago, and I remember that didn't really make a lot of sense to me either, but that was like 4 years ago. So, anyways, this song kind of perplexes me, and it's because it sort of exists in 4 parts. We have the abrasive sci-fi kind of sound that we have that is, I'm just going to group in that eerie violin work in the intro into this section, even though sonically I don't think it fits, but it is presenting something that is not as easy to listen to as some of the other parts. So I'm just going to lump it into this abrasive antagonistic style that we get throughout the opening 2.5, 3 minutes almost. It's full of really sharp timbres. Many of the instruments are not soothing in any way. They're not rounded off. A lot of them are pointed, designed to cut through noise, but there really isn't any noise to cut through, so they just have these very sharp pointed sounds to them. We also deal with harmony that is not necessarily positive in a lot of ways. I wouldn't say that they're negative in the fact that they're not angry or sad or anything like that. It's more of just this sort of blanket aggression to them. And we have our opening that fits into this, the genty rhythmic idea that never came back, that just also just doesn't feel very Steven Wilson to me. I don't know. When I think of Steven, I tend to think of sort of retro revival. There's a lot of classic rock and classic prog rock that shows up in his works. You can tell he's been influenced by that a lot. It is very much not usually progressive metal. And that sort of genty rhythmic thing I just don't associate with him. It's cool because he likes to try new things. Every song I feel like is a little experimental in some way or another for him. And so hearing that, I was like, okay, yeah, he's playing around with this. Never heard him do it, and honestly, I'm not a big fan, but I think that's because I don't like the idea in general, and him doing it didn't really change my relationship to the idea itself. Anyways, that part's scooped up into this. Some of those odd rhythmic ideas. It was all 4/4, but there's some really interesting pacing in there. The phrasing was interesting in that it was still 8-bar phrases, but the way that they divvy up the rhythmic ideas within it make it feel like it's not 4/4. So it's a little abrasive rhythmically too. And then this also includes the verse, which is the first bit where he was singing. This whole section feels very connected, very cohesive. We do have a series of ideas within it, but they all support a general concept. From here, we move into what I'm going to call the chorus, which is the light, ethereal, chill, relaxed sound. I vaguely remember like seagulls there too. I don't know if I'm adding that to my memory somehow. But it did. It felt like being weightless, soaring, just chilling, relaxing, totally at ease with everything. It comes out of nowhere. A lot of the sounds are ethereal. They don't have the full body that we have in the sections we had previously. And the entire harmonic area is different. Like I said, it's very chill, very relaxed, very laid back. And from that, we get, I don't know, 30 seconds of that, and we get pushed right back into the full bodied, abrasive, pointed instruments, just bringing back a lot of that abrasiveness, that antagonistic sound. And we do this back and forth, right? We do another one of these, we do another one of the laid backs, and then we hit the bridge, and this is section 3. This is the extended solo. The guitar and the synth and the build up into them. There is something distinctly classic rock about this section, and it's not even just the bluesy-ish sound that we get with the first guitar solo, I think it is. But it's also some of the lines. They just remind me of stuff I would hear on a classic rock station. I can't necessarily pinpoint specific songs that the riffs remind me of, but yeah, just that general area of music. And then we do have, though, a blues adjacent guitar solo that comes in, very tasteful. And then the synth solo. And then from here we get the outro, bringing back some of the calming elements of the chorus, with just beautiful instrumentation, beautiful timbres, and interestingly, unlike everything else, acoustic sounds. We have a piano and some sort of stringed instrument. It's an acoustic instrument, probably something in the guitar family, but it does not sound like an acoustic guitar to me. The strings sound just a hair bit too thin for that and twangy. So I'm not entirely sure what instrument that is. But yeah, very different from everything else, which is electric guitar, electric synthesizer, keyboard, all this stuff. But all 4 of these sections are exceptionally distinct to me. And aside from putting the chorus between 2 verses, it's linear. We don't have a concept of, cycles. So it really does feel like you're moving from one idea to the next, and there's very little cohesion between them. That's not to say that the transitions are rough. Most of them introduce the next concept a bar prior or so, maybe just a couple of beats prior. There's always some way of trying to ease the listener into the next section, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they make sense next to each other. It's like putting a connecting and between 2 completely different sentences and saying, well, it's just one run-on sentence, so they must mean something together. And like, no, you were talking about planes 1 second and then cookies the next. Just because you strung them together doesn't mean they made sense. I don't know where my mind goes with metaphors sometimes. I don't know. I hope either you understand what I'm talking about or at least get a laugh at the randomness of my metaphors. Anyways, so yeah, that's where I sat at the end of this trek. I was like, I don't know. I went on a nice little journey on the solo sections. I was grooving with the heavier sections. I enjoyed the chillness, the laid back of the choruses. The outro was beautiful. But what does it all mean? It's all really well done individually, but as a whole? So I began to interrogate things a little further. The song is called Home Invasion Regret Number 9. I have no idea what that means. Again, I were smashing two things together that I don't. How do you regret your home being invaded? Was it something during the home invasion that you regret? I don't know. I don't see the connection here. I hope that the lyrics are going to shed a little bit of light to this, but here is what I did piece together. The antagonistic opening, to me, feels a little bit like like anger directed at someone. It's not so much that the music is supposed to feel antagonistic to the listener. It's supposed to be, I think, that the whole section is supposed to be antagonistic towards someone or something. The listener is just a bystander. They just happen to be around to hear these sounds, but they're not directed at them. This is juxtaposed with um, an introspection, a vulnerability of the singer or the main character of the story, whatever, where they are on the surface very aggressive, very antagonistic. There's something inside of them that makes them feel like, well, it's a mix, right? This is the chorus. And I mentioned that it is laid back and chill, and this is where they feel most at home. But I think it's also where a truth is found. I mentioned that the vocals are sad. They feel like they're longing for something. And I think that this is a mix of both the ease of being in the self and the truth that they disguise under their anger, which is that they want more out of life. They want more out of something. They feel let down by something. Again, I don't know details here. Lyrics hopefully will shed some light on that. This leads me to the solos though, and I don't really know how to work this into anything else. And that's because the solo feels like its own little mini story. I love the pacing of the solo section. I love the way that the guitar builds up in intensity, in harmonic dissonance, in speed. We start out with these long, flowy legato sections and then ramp it up into these fast staccato shreds. Once we shred for a bar or two, we pull it back and we go back into this legato style. We explore this story. To me, it felt like a journey, the highs and the lows of going from one place to another, which makes no sense if your home is invaded, because that seems like a very singular location event. It's the home. But no, I was taken on a journey here, and part of the sci-fi sounds that were going on here, both harmonically and timbre-wise, especially with the synthesizer, made me feel like we were going into space. And for a split second, I thought this was an alien invasion. But not like of the planet, of like a home, someone getting abducted, that kind of thing. I don't know if that's necessarily what's going on here. That seems a bit odd for Steven, but maybe not. Um, and then by the end of it, we've kind of chilled out a little bit, and we have this duality of the string and the piano, and it's what's left after this grand adventure. Angry that there isn't more to life. That anger being a surface reflection of just wanting purpose, wanting something more, being taken by aliens, exploring space with them, and then being left back on Earth to return to the slightly less meaningful life you had prior. A new a new sense of life and what it can be, but still sorrowful that that adventure is over and you're back to the mundanity where you came. And I think that's where a little bit of that lack of lack of resolution comes from in the outro. As I mentioned, the piano stops playing before the string does, and it doesn't resolve itself. It hits the leading tone and then doesn't progress further. But the string instrument plays a little longer, and there's a semi-resolution. There's a note where I would expect the full resolution, it just doesn't get us all the way there. It feels kind of resolved, but not. Like there's more that could happen, more to this story. And, I mean, that feels like this person. They have one more step in life, wherever that takes them. But it is no longer an anger at things. Sort of an understanding of what things could be if you just open your mind. Now, again, I have no idea if this is what the lyrics are about. I have no idea if this is what Steven intended, but this was the little story I got out of this track. And 90% of that comes from the music. I always find that impressive. Even Porcupine Tree, they tend to be lyrically light and musically dense. The last thing I think I want to bring up is just something that I don't talk about with Steven Wilson too much, which is a plethora of sound. There's a lot of notes in here. There's a lot of things going on. Whenever I think of Steven Wilson, I think of atmospheric heavy writing and well-paced solos. Those are the two things that come to mind for me. Really great harmonic work, catchy melody work. He's good with melody, especially when he puts in his vocals, and then strong solos. And so we get this track, which has heavy riffs in it. We have rhythmically focused sections. We have some shred in here. It's just not things I typically associate with Steven Wilson, and it's very cool to see this other side of him and his writing. I feel like I gush about this dude so much for somebody who I have never dove into a discography for. Definitely one of a few artists that if I see their name, I'm like, yes, I'm in for a good time. I'm going to enjoy this reaction. But also somebody who I've just never explored. And like Joanna Newsom is another name I would put in there. Always love checking out her works. Never had a single dud. Just never gotten around to listening to anything else from her outside the channel. So, um, so it's nice to see this other side of him, and I suppose one of these days, how many albums does this dude have? Outside of Porcupine Tree, I think, would be what I want to look at. Yeah, still so many, man. This is from 2015, and he's got albums dating back to 2005. Also has albums dating back to 1972, but that seems... Oh, it's a... Wow, that's interesting. Spotify puts his Gentle Giant remixes in his discography. That doesn't seem very fair. I mean, yeah, he remixed it, but he's the producer. It's not his works. Anyways, yeah, there's just so many albums, though. Yeah, so much. There's no way to catch up on all this. Anyways, kind of deviating from talking of the music, so let's dive into some lyrics. Oh, one thing to add on is I didn't know Steven could play drums as good as this. Now, granted, the personnel list just says that, it was made by Steven, so it doesn't necessarily explicitly state, oh, this is the album that The Raven That Refused to Sing came off of. We checked that one out, too. Anyways. Oh, wait, no, I take that back. This is a live playlist that Genius has picked. Anyways, yeah, it doesn't explicitly say that he played the drums, but I'm pretty sure he played everything on it, right? And the drum work in here was really wild, especially some of the more melodic ideas, the more expanded rhythms that we got, particularly in the first third of the song. Yeah, that's just wild stuff. I knew he was a good guitarist, I knew he was a good singer and composer and producer, but I didn't know he was also a good drummer. And also just a quick shout out to the bass. I already gushed about it during the reaction, but yeah, love the bass work in here. Alright, lyrics. There are a whole 12 lines in here, which I kind of felt there was more, but now that I think about it, there really wasn't a lot of singing in general. And it's certainly a song about somebody who wants more out of life. Presumably, they sit all day at their computer utilizing the internet. The two verses have 4 lines each, and all of them talk about things that this person downloads. They download sex and download God. They download the funds to meet the cost. They download a dream home and a wife and this ocean and the sky and love and war and things they didn't even want, things that make them mad. And they download the life they wish they had. Just everything you can do on the internet or on computers in general. Some of these things don't necessarily, download I think is used rather loosely here as a nice shorthand to say interact with a computer to achieve these things, right? To get digital versions of them, digital versions of the ocean and the sky and lives that you wish you had and things you don't even want. It's about all the negativity around the internet and possibly people who use it in lieu of a real life. Like he mentions, you download a dream home and the ocean and the sky and the life you wish you had. Instead of trying to go out and achieve them for real, you just get digital facsimiles of them. So then the chorus says, another day of life has passed me by, but I have lost all faith in what's outside. They only are the stars across the sky and the wreckage of the night. And I don't quite understand the last 2 lines there. The first 2 make sense. They know that wasting their time on a computer is wasting their time. It says another day of life has passed me by. But going outside just isn't something that they want to deal with. They've lost all faith in what's outside. They've lost faith in people, in nature, in all of it. There's just no point to going outside anymore. They are totally hermits, and anything that has meaning is within their screen. They only are the stars across the sky and the wreckage of the night, and I don't quite know what that's supposed to represent. Regardless, that's the end of the story. We have somebody who spends all their time in front of a computer and wants more but refuses to engage with reality in order to achieve more. So they get these digital replicas of them in a sort of appeasement. They might be happy in the moment, but it's not going to cure their sadness. I caught some of this in the musical discussion about there being this aggression, this animosity in the music, and it being juxtaposed with this longing, this wanting of more. But everything that comes after the second chorus, the entire solo section and the outro, is, I think, up to the listener and what they make out of it, what they hear out of it. I still think my story is a little true. I'm not necessarily sure if it is about an alien invasion and an abduction, but I think it is about given a chance to find more in life and then being thrust back in the same position you were with the concept or with the knowledge of what's out there, but having to do that work yourself. You're not just drug up the ladder by one of your friends. You get in the elevator of one of your friends, you go to the top, you see how nice it is. He shoves you back in the elevator. He says, "Now work for it, bro." Now that you know what's up here. And that's what it feels like. It's that mixed feeling at the end of knowing what you could have if you just worked a little, but simultaneously not wanting to. Whatever story that narrative works for in your mind, it's probably accurate. I like the idea of an abduction, though, to see the stars and then get put back on Earth and say, "Oh, guess you're stuck here. We ain't coming back to show you it again." And then that feeling of loss. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Steve Wilson's Home Invasion Regret number 9. I still don't get the title. What are your thoughts, though? Anything stand out in this track for you? Anything you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe just have your own thoughts, opinions, perspectives, or interpretations of this song. Put all of that down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here, you can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for this one. We do have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.